All right, let's cut through all the noise about brain hacks and weird supplements. Today, we're diving into a super simple, no-nonsense way to actually get smarter, all based on some really compelling ideas. Let's get right into it.
So the source we're looking at kicks things off with this pretty wild statement. It's basically calling out the idea that just going through school for years and years automatically makes you smart or successful. It's a bold way to start, and it really sets the stage for a different way of thinking.
And that right there is the big problem, isn't it? When you go online looking for ways to get smarter, you're just bombarded with all this advice that's, well, honestly, it's pretty useless. It's this frustrating loop that almost never gets you any real results.
This slide just nails the contrast. On one side, you've got the usual stuff we've all heard a million times, right? Eat your blueberries, listen to Mozart, get 8 hours of sleep. And look, those things are fine, but the reality is, way simpler. At some point, to actually get smarter, you have to actually learn stuff.
Okay, so if all that common advice is kind of a dead end, then what's the real answer? Let's get into the actual first step. And trust me, it's way simpler than you've been led to believe, and literally anyone can do it.
And here it is. Seriously, the main thing you need to do is just read. Yep, that's it. No magic pill, no complicated routine, just reading. But, and this is a big but, what you read and how you use that knowledge, well, that's what changes everything.
And this breaks it down perfectly. You've got two paths, right? Fiction is awesome for getting faster at reading, building up your vocabulary, and, I love this, the source cheekily adds it, makes you feel like you have friends. But then you have nonfiction. And that's where you get the goods, the interesting facts and cool ideas that you can actually use to sound smart when you're talking to people.
But that brings up a really important question, doesn't it? Like, you read all this cool stuff, how do you share it without sounding like a total nerd? Because there is definitely a right way and a very, very wrong way to do it.
Oh yeah, here it is, the classic mistake. Starting any sentence with "well, actually" it's a social killer. You immediately make the other person feel defensive, and you just come off as arrogant, even if you're technically right. It's not about sharing, it's about proving them wrong. Okay, now look at this. This is so much better. See the difference? You start by agreeing with them. It is crazy, right? And then you frame it like you just found this cool thing out yourself. I was reading the other day, you're sharing something cool, not correcting them. You're teaching without making them feel small. That is the secret sauce.
All right, so you're reading, you know how to talk about what you've read without being annoying, but there's another big hurdle. Your brain is like a super efficient machine, and if it decides a piece of information is useless, poof, it's gone. So the real question is, how do you convince your brain that this stuff is worth keeping?
It all comes down to this. Use it or lose it. You have to give that knowledge a job to do. So you read a chapter on how to clean a bedroom? The absolute best way to lock that in is to actually go and clean a bedroom. It doesn't even have to be yours. The physical act literally tells your brain, hey, this info is important. Keep.
And, this whole idea ties directly into something called the learning curve. It's basically a graph that shows how you get better at something with practice, and the shape of it is really, really interesting.
And boom, here's the 80-20 rule of skills. Check this out. The biggest jump in your skill, we're talking a massive 80%, comes from that very first bit of practice. Just starting gives you the most bang for your buck. You don't have to become a master, you just have to get in there and try it. Okay, but what about stuff you can't just go out and do, right? You can't just find a couple of cars to practice jump-starting one. So what do you do then? Well, this is where we get into a really cool trick, kind of like hacking your brain's own operating system.
And the answer is surprisingly simple, but incredibly powerful. You just imagine it. If you can't do it for real, you do it in your head. By vividly picturing yourself doing the task, you can actually trick your brain into building the connections like you really did it. It's wild.
So let's break this down into 3 easy steps. Step 1, you learn the thing, how to jumpstart a car. Step 2, you find or create a reason to use it. And step 3, you practice, either for real or you just close your eyes and walk through the entire process in your mind, popping the hood, connecting the red cable, then the black one, every single detail.
And if this sounds a little familiar, it's because this is literally how school works. A test is nothing more than an imaginary, high-stakes situation designed to make your brain think the information is useful. But here's the problem. As soon as that test is over, your brain is like, okay, crisis averted, and it just tosses all that info out the window.
Which brings us to the grand finale, the most powerful idea from this whole thing. If we really want to get smart and make it stick for the long haul, we need the absolute best tool for the job. And I'm going to bet it's not what you're thinking. It's the textbook. Yeah, I know, the humble textbook. In a world full of flashy YouTube videos and quick articles, the textbook is being called the S tier, the absolute top-level tool for getting smart, fast. Why? Because it's built for exactly the kind of active learning we've been talking about. And let's just look at the matchup here, right? A YouTube video is fun, it's casual, but it's passive. You watch it, and an hour later, it's pretty much gone. A textbook, though, it makes you focus. It's packed with information. But, and this is the game changer, it has built-in tools for making it stick. Practice questions. Those questions are the simulated scenarios that force your brain to use the info, and that's why it stays with you.
So we'll leave you with this one last thought. You can create your own practice questions and make the stakes feel incredibly high. The source gives this crazy example, like imagining you're hanging off a cliff and the only way to be saved is if you answer correctly. So what critical information do you want to learn, and what high-stakes scenario can you create in your mind to lock it in forever?